First and foremost, I want to apologize for how long this video has taken. There is no excuse, reason, or thing I could say to make that okay, and I want to take full accountability for that. I also understand with the white privilege that I possess, I have no right to ask or expect forgiveness from anyone that I have hurt with my actions. I don't deserve a platform if I continue to act in such a gaslighting and irresponsible manner. I chose to take those paths. I chose to only listen to yes people. I chose to idolize people that taught me the complete wrong way to handle the responsibility of this platform. I did nothing but look at apology videos as people digging up my past again. If I had spent the time I spent pandering, deflecting, making excuses, and spewing ignorance to millions of people becoming a better person, I would be in a far, far better place right now. It is far past the time I needed to own up to my behavior and take 100% accountability for my actions. And if I had wanted people to see that I'd truly grown, you'd think that my actions would have been in unison with that thought before this moment. I want you to know I'm aware of that. It's inexcusable. It's completely, completely inexcusable. I had every single resource to change. I don't want to be the reason that a young girl grows up the way I did. What would have been vital at that time was to look inside, to ask myself why people were angry at me, go to the root of the problem and find out why I was acting like that, and then educate myself. That's what someone deserving of a platform of my size would have done. The only goal I was taught that I actually internalized was that when I was in the wrong, I needed to make people like me again versus what I could do to become a person that people actually like. But with all of that being said, there is no excuse for the amount of time it took me when I had every single resource in the world to become a better person in the last 3 years. I had people like Kahlen specifically call me out and try to open my eyes and make me better. But I was so stuck in my narcissistic, egotistical ways that I was convinced I was a good person and had nothing to learn. You truthfully tried, and you would have saved me a whole lot of hell had I listened to you, and I want you to know that I know that and I live with that. Next, for every single one of my past tweets, they were incredibly prejudiced, racist, homophobic, and unfunny. It shows how much hate was so clearly inside of me that I thought it was okay, even at that time, to write that out and put that out into the world. And then every time I spoke about my past, I pandered, I deflected, I made excuses, and I was so much more of a piece. And it's crazy that I was trying to convince people I'd grown. And that is exactly how I should have apologized anytime anyone ever questioned my past. As I would grow in my career, I would claim to say that I understood the pain behind these words. I would claim to say that I knew how wrong it was to have said that at that time. But then every time I would apologize, it would be in a way that was so pandering and deflecting. It would discredit everything I had to say. And it's so sad that I was so stupid and couldn't realize that. And then I would proceed to spend the next 3 years in such an unproductive cycle wondering why these things kept getting brought up. But how could I expect anyone to forgive me in general if my apology wasn't even a sufficient apology? I selfishly decided time and time again I did not need education. Clearly, even based on my actions over the past few months, I have so much more growing to do, and I understand anyone who is fed up and tired, sick of it, and doesn't want to be around for that. Had a person of color done 1/10 of the antics I had done in my career, they would not have gotten to act with such privilege in the ways that I did. And to every single person who has called me out on my performative activism, you are 100% right. It is so sad that it took me years to realize that by not apologizing and not taking accountability for my past, but then sprinkling in random acts of justice, that is performative activism completely. You cannot cover up years of damage and being a hurtful person with a cardboard sign and a Twitter name. And again, the fact that it took me this moment in time to realize that is so sad. To take this long to make so many people feel heard while thinking I was doing my justice by posting about Black Lives Matter or Breonna Taylor was performative activism completely. Acting like this has been the exact opposite of that. I can never even fully resonate with the pain and anger people must have felt seeing that. But if a person of color feels that your actions were racist or you said something that was racist, it is about holding yourself accountable and expressing to people that you are wrong and you are sorry, and that is not who you are. Like, how did I ever expect people to think that that wasn't who I was if I could never be fully accountable until this moment? Next, I want to address the Kahlen and Simply Nessa situations. Once again, the amount of time this has taken is completely inexcusable. I let my anger, ego, and pride stop me from doing what was right. And in turn, I hurt and let down and made so many people feel unheard, including Kahlen, Nessa, and all of their fans. I didn't know what microaggression was and never bothered to educate myself or see any of the validity in the things that were being being brought to light before my eyes because I was so convinced that I simply wasn't a racist person and had nothing to learn. I don't know what Kahlen and Nessa are talking about. I think back to all of the times that Kahlen specifically tried to make me a better person, tried to help me understand why I was going through these scandals over and over again, tried to intensively educate me on the pain behind the words that I'd said, and I chose every single time to look the other way, not listen, and write him off as someone who was just in my ear and wanted to call me out. I chose every single time to take the narcissistic route, to denote that I was a good person and I simply wasn't racist, and that's just how things were. And looking back, that is so incredibly microaggressive. The way that I must have hurt him with my actions time and time again is so incredibly microaggressive, and that is not a person that I ever want to be. In order to say that and have anyone ever believe me, or to even simply just grow, it is about holding myself accountable. As a white person, if a person of color ever accuses you of microaggression, the right thing to do is apologize, because who am I to decide if I made that person feel that way? The fact that I ever thought I could decide that. And who was I at that time to be writing off anyone as annoying or not a good person? I was so uneducated and had no right to be shaping or in charge of anyone else. I just feel that this video should not be related to anything other than my racist actions and past. It's so sad that I could never say that. I was so unafraid to use racial terminology, but I was so afraid of people calling me a racist. I had so many chances to say all of this before right now. When it comes to the Nessa situation, it's definitely one of the reasons that it has taken me so long to address this, because I haven't really known what to say. However, that is not an excuse, and this situation has gotten completely out of hand, and it is entirely my fault. I could have addressed this like an adult and someone who deserves this platform months ago. Regardless, I need to be a good example to my followers, and if this person is accusing me of microaggression, I need to hold myself fully accountable and apologize for ever making her feel that way, and let you know that I'm not going to act in that manner in any way for the entirety of my life. But at the same time, if for some reason something like this is ever brought up, it is about holding myself accountable immediately and apologizing. Who was I at that time to write off if someone was a good or bad person? Who was I at that time to be to someone else, to be a bad friend, to handle the situation immaturely? I also completely validate your frustrations, Nessa, seeing me get so many things so easily that were probably so much more difficult or impossible for you. I should have spent the entirety of my career acknowledging the immense white privilege I have had, educating myself on that when people wanted to talk to me about it. Lastly, I want to apologize to each and every one of my fans for letting you down. People have really been referencing this time as the time they chose to unstan, or the time I was canceled for good. But I look back at my values across so many of the things I was doing for the entirety of my YouTube career, and this time has made me realize how skewed they have been all along. I've had the resources to fix all of that for so long and have chosen not to, so it's no longer a feel sorry for me, I was raised in this way, I was this person. It's you should have used all shit you have to become a better person. You should not feel sorry for a 22-year-old who has chosen to not help themselves for so long, you know? When I think about a single one of my young fans growing up or acting in the ways that I did, it makes me sick. I want to make a difference in a way that is positive and impactful, not performative and disruptive. At the same time, I fully understand the people that have stopped their journey with me or are stopping here. But for me, this is just a new chapter of my journey with myself and becoming a better person. I still have to look in the mirror, and I want to see someone I'm proud of looking back at me. This is my last apology video ever. If someone is hurt with my actions, I realize it is imperative to make them feel heard immediately. I will make sure to be aware of the privilege I have as a white creator and do everything I can to be a non-performative ally from this point further. And I know I'm not 2013 Tana. It is so apparent to not only me, but all of you, that I have a lot more deep-rooted growing to do as a person. I am so sorry to my fans that I never gave a proper apology to, that I gaslit, and that I chose to not educate. I used such a great platform so irresponsibly in so many ways. I refuse to come back to this channel unless I am changing into a person down to the core that is deserving of this responsibility. The things that go wrong with us in our lives have the biggest potential to become a part of our gift to the world. However, at any given moment, we all have the power to decide that this is not how our story is going to end. Thank you for watching.